So please mute your line when you're not speaking, particularly if you have a lot of background noise. Now Teams is getting better and better at filtering that out, but if you have a barking dog, we'll probably hear it, so please mute. Washrooms, I'll leave up to you to find. Use the chat. Better yet, unmute and just come on in and chime in and interact. I mean, that's the whole purpose of today. We want to make sure that, the whole spirit of community is that we're coming together and getting to know each other. So I encourage you to, drop your LinkedIn link into the chat and connect with each other, reach out to each other. My hope is that our conversation starters get us going down a path where we start to have some dialogue with each other, and you see even more reason to connect with each other. Be like, hey, that person's having the same problem we're having. Let's connect offline outside of this call and chat. Goes without saying, especially in the Canadian user group, but respectful interaction at all times, please. So it is a-okay to disagree with each other. Let's do so respectfully. Even if you're really adamant about your stance, that's okay. Let's embrace each other's differences and of opinion and get to know each other even better. On the right-hand side in red, you see our agenda for today. So we're going to do this Let's Chat portion. That first portion is really just, like I said, around conversation starters. So please interact, right? These calls, I'm sure we've all been on a Teams call where you get on and there's open forum discussion, or you're just shooting the breeze and nobody talks, and it's super awkward. And so let's try not to be awkward and have some dialogue. Again, I hope the conversation starters do us justice in getting us flowing on some things. But if you have other items you'd like to talk about, please do. I'm going to flash a slide a little later about other UG activities that are going on, so that you can see there's lots of user groups that are happening all over Canada and the world, frankly. And so we'll flash some links up that you can copy down or visit, or again, we'll send the deck out so you'll have a copy of that. We're going to do a quick DUG. So Dynamics User Group is going to join us toward the end of this opening half hour. They're going to say a few words about what they're doing and some of their initiatives and great content that they have coming up. Then we'll dive into our content portion. So our content portion will be 2 45-minute sessions. It won't always be like that. Sometimes it'll be one 1-hour one. Sometimes it might be two, half-hour ones. But the idea here is we're going to try and block a 2-hour block of time, do a half an hour of socializing, get to know each other, get into some updates, get into some content to give you some value, and then away we go. And we're going to try and do that monthly moving forward. That may be a lot to bite off all at one time, but we've got the next few months already scheduled out. We've got speakers lined up, so we're really excited about how things are going to move forward. So real quick before we dive into this stuff, this is everything I just said, right? This is about connection. So please, again, just a way of me reiterating, leverage this opportunity, right? Share your LinkedIn page, connect with each other, use the chat, talk during the groups, come off mute, get to know each other. The group is growing. I see we're now up to over 30 people in the call, which is amazing. So, so please feel free to chime in and engage. So on that note, and pardon me, I'm battling a cold. So I've queued up 3 discussion topics for us to just mull here in the last 22 minutes before we kick off our content sessions. And so, as I said before, we don't have to talk about these things. I've got 3 of them. I'm going to release one at a time. If I release one and there's 0 conversation, I'll release the next one. If there's 0 conversation, I'll release the third one. If there's 0 conversation, I may just hang up because it'd be painful by that point. But or we'll just turn to our content. But the first thing I thought we might want to try and talk about is if we could just throw out to the group, what's the biggest challenge you're having in D365 today? Is there something you're trying to learn? Are you trying to make something work and you just can't get it to do its thing? Are you trying to build something and you can't get it to work? What is the single biggest problem you're having right now?
And Malcolm, before we get into this,
can we just yours, Rick. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Rick McCutcheon, and Diane, Malcolm, and myself have been kind of reorganizing our user group community for the last little while. So we've been volunteering for about 10 years, doing these user groups for Dynamics CRM specifically, and hopefully this group will expand out to some other products as we go. So can you people raise their hands if this is their first meeting with us?
Oh, good call.
Because I see a lot of familiar faces, but I saw on LinkedIn there was a lot of people I was not connected to. So, 11, okay. All right. 13. Okay, so we're part of a volunteer group, and we've been like I said, we've been organizing this for about 10 years. We used to have our meetings quarterly out at the Microsoft Meadowvale office in Mississauga and broadcast like this across Canada. We expanded before COVID. We had live meetings happening in Calgary, Vancouver, Ottawa, Montreal sometimes, to go along with our Toronto meeting. And in London, actually, we had some things happening. So we were starting to really, expand, and it kind of got kiboshed from like everything else from COVID. So, we kind of went away for a bit, and now we're kind of reorganizing. So next year we're going to have, I think, what did we say, 3 live, 3 in person?
At least 2. If we can do 3, we will. But April
Okay.
and September are our targets.
So 3 in-person events in Toronto hopefully either at the Reactor Center at the University of Toronto, which is a Microsoft Innovation Center, or at the new Microsoft head office, which is nicely located about 3 feet from Union Station in Toronto. So, if we can do that as well. And again, if we can get the volunteers to reorganize in the cities, we'll have meetings going on the same time. So we'll have a lunch meeting in Toronto and our breakfast meeting in Vancouver. So it was working out pretty well before. So welcome everybody. Please connect with us on LinkedIn or reach out on the Meetup, and we'll try to get you all involved. And you'll see in no time at all, you'll know lots of people using Dynamics and have lots of questions. So sorry, Malcolm, I'll send it back over to you.
No, that was great. I should have started.
Problems are.
Should have absolutely started with that I never even thought to do so. So good call. That's why you've been doing this so long. I see 2 hands still up. Are those questions, or did you just not put your hand down? They're still up.
So
no,
Richard,
Shahid had first hand up, so I'll let him speak. Okay, so now I'm on only the one. So I have one event on February 25th, 300 people in-person event at Microsoft. I already booked everything. So if we can organize something which is around Power Platform or maybe Dynamics 365, because I have 3 tracks. So one Azure track, one Power Platform track, and one Dynamic track.
So Vivek, why don't we meet this week, or if we can, or early next week, we'll have a quick call and talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, and if
so I already booked the room and everything on February 25th.
If you can put your event in the chat so people can see it. And
I will do that right now.
So, Vivek is a Power Platform MVP from the data side, and he organizes the, I guess it's the Power Apps, their Power Platform UG.
Power Platform.
Power Platform. Thank you, Vivek.
Yeah, so good call on putting in the link in the chat. So if anybody's interested in joining that, please do have a look at that link. Vivek, how many can they hold? What's the max they can give?
So they asked me 300 people maximum.
Max is 300. Okay.
Yeah. So I just put. I don't have a call for speaker as of now, but I'm going to soon announce that.
Okay. Perfect. That sounds great.
I just wanted to make sure that I have a venue available and all other, all other things are available. So that is done. Microsoft is going to provide the food and venue.
Amazing.
Oh, nice.
And that's right at their head office in Toronto?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right beside the Union Station.
Beautiful. Thank you, Vivek.
3 feet. I think it's 9 meters. This is 9 a Canadian meters. Group. 9 meters, but close enough. Okay, so let's flip over to the topic of the moment, if you will. So I don't know, and I'm going to try and keep my eyes on the chat over here too, but it's fast and furious, which is amazing to see. Any items that people would like to ask about, any challenges that you're having today with the application, and you're like, I've been bumping my head against the wall for a couple days doing this and I can't figure it out? Again, floor is yours. Anything that jumps out at people?
So
Can you see their hands up,
Yeah.
Malcolm?
I see
Just
some,
to
yeah.
jump in. Just to jump in, it's Richard. So if anyone is at the Microsoft office today, like myself, please feel free to come to room 441J and feel free to join me. We are more than happy to have more people in the room. I'm typically at the Microsoft office, so if anyone wants to join, feel free to do so. And Malcolm, coming back to your first question, the biggest challenge I see in the ecosystem today is finding new talent. There is a limited or a finite amount of talent out there. So, one of the key challenges we have is finding new talent. We try to bring in as many new folks as possible and train them up in the Dynamics ecosystem. Even we're building a new practice in Moncton right now where we're actually hiring talent there and training them up into the ecosystem to, really inject fresh talent into the marketplace. But that's one of the biggest challenges I'm seeing.
What are some of the skills you look for when you're looking for talent?
So anything from technical resource, so development orientated, but more so on the functional consultant side, the implementer side, right? So, business system analysts that are able to speak to customers about very specific, obviously, technologies and implement the Dynamics 365 ecosystem, whether it be marketing, sales, customer service, field service, the whole stack, right? We do field service as well and digital e-commerce, but my world is primarily on the CE side of things. So, it would be one either technical or mostly on the functional side.
Awesome. I know that in my experience, I've heard lots of organizations, users, partners alike, using organizations who are struggling to find even administrators to just come in and manage their implementation. So there's definitely a massive shortage. Anybody else struggling with that?
It's a major
just on that note, I see that Denise is on the call from DUG. I think so. For those who don't know, DUG is the Dynamics user group, not association or whatever they are, and we've joined up with them, so we're an official DUG group. And I know they have curriculum in that area, so maybe that's something we can talk to them about, sort of. Getting that out there and helping spread the news on, where administrators can get trained.
Denise or Liz, I know you're both on the call. I know that we're going to give you a few minutes at the end to talk a bit about DUG, but do you have any comment around that curriculum and what you guys offer? Sorry, put you on the spot.
And Richard, I've got both of my sons in Dynamics, but I'm not going to have any more kids. I've done my parts.
Well, I'm getting my daughter into it, but she's only 9,
Okay.
so she'll be Power Platform certified within Q1 next year. So I'm working.
Beautiful. And she's, how old is she?
9.
9. Good. Excellent.
Train them up young, right? Train them up young. That's what I'm hearing. That's excellent.
You got it. Absolutely.
Well, from a DUG perspective, we do have a lot of free content that is out on our YouTube channel, and I'll pop a link to that in the chat here in just a few minutes. From all of our previous DynamicsCon virtual events, we record those sessions and post them by product track out on our YouTube channel, and it's free for anyone to go out, take a look at things, see if there's something there that can help them with the situation that they're going through or answer questions right now. We also have the DUG forums, which has so much history on it, and you can search by a specific topic. You also have access to moderators. The community as a whole is really great at responding, giving answers, giving guidance, and those 2 resources are free through Dynamics User Group. And our final piece is a Skill Up program that we have, and that's where individuals can go out and they can purchase very in-depth specific training around any product that they're looking for. We have several just fantastic trainers that post their information out there. That is one of the few things that you would have to purchase, is those really in-depth trainings that you would have for some of them are up to 4 to 8 hours worth of training. So we've got some options.
Awesome. I see Liz just dropped the link in the chat, so that's available for everyone too. Thank you.
Cool. I know one of the things that I hear from people who are trying to get into the field of it is that it's so overwhelming, particularly the pace of change of some of the applications, and they don't know where to start, and that's terrifying for some people. And I get it, because I was there once too. I still am. There's days where just this morning I actually had a conversation about the fact that we did a video for something 2 weeks ago for one of the new Power Automate features, and it has changed in those 2 weeks. Things that we talked about not being in the application are now there. And so the product team actually reached out and said, hey, we know you guys just did this video, but can you redo it? Because some of the things you talked about are actually there now today. It was like a difference of 2 weeks. So I know that some of the people who are trying to get into the field that makes them nervous, because they're like, how the heck can I keep up? Which I think is a whole other conversation for another day, is how do you keep up with all the innovations? Because stuff rolls out. There's probably been stuff rolled out since we started this conversation just now. So
just to add, Malcolm, I always consider Rick as my role model. So I have a community in Toronto, and I welcome everybody to present at that. So I just posted link. I have one community which is Power Platform, and I have around 2,200 people over there. And then another community which is Excel, which is 2,900 people. And I really invite you, all of you, to present over there.
We can't wait until you become an official DUG community, Vivek. It'll be great.
No, I depend upon you.
All right.
No. I'm just looking for our next speaker. So Denise, I know you gave your spiel about some of those offerings. Do you want to speak? Was there more that you wanted to cover about some of your upcoming events and things like that? I know we've got about 7 minutes before we dive into our first topic. Do you want to take a few minutes to talk about some of those things?
Yes, absolutely. I would be delighted to talk about our upcoming events that we have coming in 2023. First of all,
do you have a deck that you want to share, and I can stop?
Oh, yes, sure. That would be delightful.
I will stop. You can pull yours up.
Okay.
You should have all the rights to do that. So if you don't see the share button, let me know, but you should be good.
I think I'm good. And let me know if you can see my screen.
Sure.
Yep, we can see it.
Excellent. Great. Well, first of all, thanks for being here today. This is an impressive sized group, I have to say. And welcome to December. Does anybody else feel like 2022 just zipped by? Like it was, holy moly. So
Agreed.
agreed.
Yep, it just zipped by.
It did. It zipped by. I woke up this morning and thought, this is not possible, but it is. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you for giving DUG an opportunity to visit with you, tell you about our programs. If you are not familiar with DUG, we are Dynamics user group. It is free membership to join, and your membership gives you access to all of the resources that I mentioned earlier, from the YouTube channel, the DUG forum, also attendance at the virtual DynamicsCon that we host each year, and also access to all of those free recordings on our YouTube channel, which this recording will also go on that YouTube channel. So, and Liz put a link in the chat that will get you to the DUG, we call it the DUG Hub. That's where you can get to all of the information that we have out there and find those resources, and of course get signed up for your free membership. DUG has been around since 1995, and so we started as the forum side, and so that's where all of that juicy, good history is coming from. It dates all the way back, and I do believe that when you search our forums, you can find information as far back as that. As I mentioned before, we are known for our DynamicsCon virtual, and then we also have our DynamicsCon live event that happens each year. We're the super cool people that you see online with the superhero themes. We've got everything is heroic and superheroes because I think all of us need to be celebrated as superheroes in our own right every day. We have a growing community of over 35,000 people, and we look forward to adding all of you as well. As we talked about, there on the DUG Hub, you have quick access to how to find out more about the DUG forums, the YouTube channel. Of course, we've got this Meetup group here that Rick and team has started and is hosting through the DUG platform. Conferences, also a quick link to the Skill Up, and then some information about our Team Up platform as well, which is a partnership with other companies. Coming up very, very soon, our DynamicsCon virtual event is a one-day event being hosted on March 15th, 2023. It is free to attend. Right now, we are accepting session submissions for all of the product tracks, Dynamics 365, Dynamics GP, and Power Platform. So if you are interested in speaking again or being a first-time speaker, please go out, submit your session, and all sessions will be voted on in January by the community. So all of the content for this conference is chosen by the community. And then mark your calendars to attend and join us on that day, and it'll be a rockin' good time for sure. And finally, we have our DynamicsCon Live event happening in May of 2023. This is 3 days of content across all of the product tracks in sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. So if you need a break from the cold and want to lay by the pool for a little while, come on down, I'll save you a spot. And when you register, let me rephrase that, when you register, please use Meetup Cool Kid 50 to save $50 on your registration. And that's all I have for you today. Any questions that you might have for me? Okay, then. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Malcolm.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And it's so exciting to see stuff coming back, in-person stuff. Again, I don't know what the threshold at what point we stop talking about things coming back, because it's been back for a while now, but it's still really cool to see in-person events that are being held and starting to get traction and having people to come together. So that's super, super exciting. There was one question. Will there be a call for speakers for DynamicsCon, or has that already passed?
That has already passed. The deadline for that was actually yesterday. We did it throughout October and November was our call for speakers for DynamicsCon Live for the in-person event, and that did close yesterday.
Okay. Got it. And do you have one coming up for the virtual one?
So the virtual one is live. I am happy to put a link in the chat to let you know exactly where to go to submit, and also to see what already has been submitted. You can check out our website. There's a great big button with all the rules and how you submit right there.
Perfect. Yeah, if you could drop those links in, that would be awesome.
Yes, my pleasure.
Okay, I'm just looking for any other questions.
So if you are in Toronto area, I can help you.
Perfect. For how so?
Anything like a venue, food, everything.
Awesome. So if DynamicsCon is going to make a Canadian stop on the tour.
Actually, new person is joining. Actually, there was one person. What was his name? Oh, Ahmad. Ahmad was there for Dynamics 365, but now new person is joining. Awesome. So I'm in contact with Ahmad. and the new person. And if you are planning to organize anything in Toronto, please let me know.
So Vivek,
Excellent.
I sent you an invite for Friday, and I've got a couple other things I'll let you know about.
Okay, I don't know. Did I
Okay.
receive it?
So Todd, I saw your name on the link. I don't want to interject that, but I want to know we've got some.
So new person is joining in Microsoft for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform.
Like a
Okay,
joint role.
perfect. Let's take that offline, Vivek. We'll do it
Okay.
Friday. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds perfect. Todd, you on the line? I thought I saw your name pop up.
Yeah, I snuck in there when everybody was chit-chatting.
There he is, Todd Mercer, everybody. Todd Mercer is he's a power, I'm not going to get your title right, man, so you're going to have to help me out. Power Platform, Super Architect, Fancy something rather, I believe.
That's probably the best one I've heard yet. I'm going to get that one printed up.
He used to be just like us, though.
That's right. He used to be one of us.
He
So
used to be one of us.
Todd is going to take over the reins here for the first content presentation of this afternoon. So Todd's going to lead us through some of the new features in Wave 2. So Todd, you should have full rights here to grab the screen and present, and the show is yours.
Let's see. Is that coming through for everybody?
Looks great.
Yeah, so my title, Malcolm, was a low-code technical specialist versus a super fancy solution architect thingy.
That's pretty close.
But as Rick mentioned, I used to be a customer. I've been with Microsoft now for the last almost 3 years as a technical specialist for Dynamics 365. Then moved on to low-code or the Power Platform. So it's an exciting journey with the platform, and it's ever growing. And if anyone has attempted to read the release notes, and I say attempted because there's a little over 1,000 pages of notes combined between Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. It's it's quite a long read. For me, so if you want to get up to speed, you can. They are published obviously there and be able to kind of browse through the features for Power Apps and Dynamics 365. I've brought a few highlights today. I've tried to bring a little bit of highlights of what came top of mind of remembering my customer days from sales and service and the Power Platform. So we'll walk through some of those highlights as we go through. And I think somebody took over share. I seen the wrong thing. Everybody still see my screen or somebody else's screen?
No, we're seeing you got robbed. So go ahead and steal it back.
All right. There we go.
There we go. You're good.
So before we dive into that, I'm not sure if anybody was aware of the release planner, the interactive release planner. It wasn't in the release notes specifically, but it did come out there during the fall, and it's a great tool to navigate and interact with kind of the release notes and the changes that are coming out, both from Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. And you can also leverage it to actually manage your own plan. You can sign into the site and create your own plan to track features and things that are of interest to you. It's a fantastic tool to bookmark, to come back and kind of see what's coming in the plan upcoming soon, and be able to try it out from a preview point of view. And it even highlights kind of when dates or changes too. So if there's a feature you were looking forward to, you'll see those date changes in the planner. So it's a great tool. It's a great bookmark to add to your browser. Moving into sales, so like I said, I'm going to try and highlight a few along the way through sales and service in the platform. The first one that came across that was really exciting was the SMS feature. So obviously, when you're engaging in that B2B industry and engaging with your customers, staying in touch with them quickly and being able to engage with them is important. SMS as a channel, so I would say as a preferred channel is great. I think it's probably one of the more common ones that people look for. And to be able now to engage in those SMS conversations with your customers without leaving the application, you can say in line with context with the record you're working on, and to be able to work with your customers through SMS. It's going to be a fantastic addition coming into Dynamics 365 sales. So that's a January 2023 preview feature. It's not quite out yet, but it's really exciting to see that feature coming in as a native option available to the sales side. Sequences. So I'm going to cover some of the highlights on sequences because I was a big fan of them when they originally came out for the platform, and I still think they're an amazing component to be able to build and deliver features around bringing that next best action to the surface for your sellers to engage on when working with your customers. So these sequences really help propagate and kind of ensure that successful selling strategies, like those next best actions, and bringing them to the surface. So the designer has been updated here to bring it a little more in line and consistent with what is in Dynamics 365 marketing. So it's nice to see that parity in the product coming across there. So if you're familiar with Dynamics 365 marketing and customer journeys, sequences now have an updated designer to be able to build and extend those out. When it comes to kind of, like I said, guiding sellers into that work simultaneously or that next best action, one of the challenges originally with sequences were always about it was in a singular experience, meaning once you connected that sequence to the record, that was the one that everybody was following. Now with the new feature coming out for to be able to engage multiple individuals on a record. So we're able now to assign different sequences to different sellers for a particular record at the same time. So we're able to kind of accommodate the idea of having, say, like a solution architect or an account executive are both working on the same record for the same objective, but they might need to follow different sequences in terms of how they're engaging and following up with the customer. So it's really exciting extension there to sequences. And as the trend continues, like I said, sequences got a lot of enhancements this time around. There is now the option to introduce A/B testing into a sequence. So anybody who's familiar with marketing and the concept of A/B testing, it's the idea where you're able to have two different paths that individuals are allowed to follow that you can then kind of review at a later date to see which one is kind of having the better performance, the more optimal path for you to follow. So being able to bring A/B testing to sequences is a great addition to be able to fine-tune your sequences or your business processes that you have to follow for your sellers. So that's exciting as well. And you know, I continue on again. I said all my highlights were on sales were on sequencing because it was really exciting to see these features expand. But sequences themselves, one of the issues also is initially when they were created, you had to work through the sales accelerator to engage with the sequences, and it's a really powerful feature to be able to drive those next best actions and what you want to do next. But you had to work through the sales accelerator to engage with them. So now, with this particular feature, the up next widget can be embedded into the default lead and opportunity forms so that you can engage with that feature no matter if you're in the sales accelerator experience or you're out in the regular Dynamics 365 experience to be engaging with those next best actions. And then wrapping up the sequence tour here in terms of the highlights of in the sales releases is we build all these great things in our sequences. We really want to know if it's correct. Are we getting the right performance that we're looking for? So now being able to look at each step that we're putting in there, we can monitor those steps, compare them to the overall efficiency of the whole process, and really drill down and see which sequences are better performing, how we're kind of extrapolating those best practices and the high performing ones and being able to replicate them into low performing sequences. So with those detailed analysis, they can quickly now identify those redundant activities and streamline them so they're more efficient for customer interactions going forward. So those are some of the highlights from sales. Customer service had a quite a rich set of features dropped as well. As you can kind of see here, there was a long set of features across a couple of different key areas. So we can dive into some of those as well. Auto-enabling AI suggestions for similar cases. So if you've worked with the similar cases or knowledge-based articles for your implementations, there was a really great feature to enable AI-driven suggestions of what may be the best knowledge-based article or a similar related case. And the idea there is to help streamline and quickly resolve those cases for your customers. But it was a feature you had to enable and turn on and do some configuration. So now that this will be auto-enabled for you, so you're able to kind of get the benefit of this right out of the box now as you kind of set up cases and knowledge-based articles in your system to help drive that quick resolution and resolving those cases for your own customers in itself. The feature can still be configured by an administrator or turn off if they needed to, but with it auto-enabled now, I think it's the best scenario to help drive those features out and for individuals to kind of get the benefits of those. Enhancements to the timeline. I'm a huge fan of the timeline control to be able to quickly see that chronological view of what we've been engaging with a record and see quickly access kind of all your notes, your activities, everything all in one line. It's really exciting to see these features now starting to enhance the timeline control to drive even more capabilities down the path. You know, some the ability to kind of bring in the attachments to the posts, the setup for users to be able to configure and save their own filters. It's really great to see these features coming through because it's been long overdue, and a lot of customers have been asking for it for a long time to be able to start customizing the timeline control to better fit experiences that make sense for their organization. And on that same theme, for the makers, the individuals who are building solutions, there's also some enhancements to actually being able to configure it. Being able to set the base configuration to only show the specific actions that make sense for that type of record. One of my favorite enhancements is being able to show more than one timeline on the form. So you can now have customized timelines or multiple timelines on a form to drive different purposes, which I think is a fantastic thing to be able to bring that experience and be able to separate, say, notes from activities and things of that nature. So really exciting to see these two big changes come through. I have them in the customer service side of highlights, but I think from the timeline perspective, they can really be applicable to your sales applications as well as your Power Platform applications. So really exciting to see those things come through. This is more of a general availability of bringing the embedded teams into customer service for anyone who tried out the preview of the Teams chat for customer service. This has now gone into general availability, which is great to be able to link those chats and conversations from Teams to in context with the record, which is great when we have complex cases that we need to resolve. If it's just sort of managing cases from an agent perspective, you're trying to resolve cases for a customer, being able to quickly engage and bring in subject matter experts to help out and lend a hand through the Teams chat and linking that in context is a great addition there, and really brings that collaboration component across the platform and the applications. Moving into the Power Platform territory, again, like I said, there was a little over 1,000 pages, so there's quite a few changes coming through. You know, even with the Power Platform, as these changes come through, they're applicable to the first-party applications as they're built on top of it. So I wanted to bring some of those highlights as well. So This one was recently just come out through some of the Ignite, I believe it was Ignite, this one was announced. Connecting with other makers in your organization through the maker matching service. It's in the public preview, but if you're working in a large enterprise that have a lot of individuals who are building applications in different departments and maybe a little siloed, the idea now that we can kind of promote individuals or makers to be kind of advisors to help support other individuals, and really goes a long way to extending out that collaboration. And if we think about building, say, a center of excellence and sharing knowledge within organizations, it's a great addition to the platform. And when it comes to sharing knowledge, there is a new community template around the Power Platform, and this is more about kind of building again, extending that idea of nurturing and building that center of excellence for the Power Platform. There is a new site template for SharePoint that comes with some content already pre-built to kind of give you an idea of how to set up this template for your organization, but gives you a centralized site where everybody can kind of come to a central place to get information in terms of best practices or documentation, how to use the application or the platform within the organization. Sometimes it's the small features that make really the big difference. And this one may not have gotten a lot of, I would say, fanfare when it was announced, but the simple thing of being able to filter your environments and see the environments kind of grouped together based on Dataverse or other. We always want to make sure that whenever we're building or extending our applications, we make sure we're in the right environment, that we are, as I like to say, it's, protecting ourselves from ourselves. And so the idea now that we can quickly look at a long list of environments, if we have access to them, to make sure we're operating in the correct environment, or apply filters if there's filters that need to be applied based on my level of access or what I have access to. So it's great from a maker perspective. If you have business subject matter experts who are branching out into the Power Platform to build their apps, this is also great to be able to assure that we know that they're looking at the right environments in the right location. Speaking of empowering kind of those business subject matter experts as well, Power Apps Ideas is a great, it's a powerful thing coming down the pipeline, and really excited to see it develop, which is the idea of leaning on some artificial intelligence to help drive and make building applications quicker and more efficient. The ability now to transform kind of that natural language straight into a formula, or just pasting in, say, an example to create the formula, for example, which anybody who ever worked with dates and building applications can become finicky. So the idea now that we can just copy and paste a format of what we're looking for, and it can auto-generate the formula or expression for us. It's really exciting in that space, around that kind of co-pilot experience of leaning on AI to help us build applications more efficiently. Speaking of kind of building, there's also the co-authoring experience. While this is kind of branching a little bit outside of end users and more along the developer experience, it's a really important piece to highlight as we think about kind of maturing in that building space, to be able to work with multiple builders and being able to support that idea of kind of co-authoring and building together. For so long, model-driven apps, especially Canvas apps, have kind of been, you're building on your own without seeing the impact from other experiences. Now, as co-authoring continues to mature in the model-driven experience, we're able to kind of see the gift playing there. The idea where we see these changes kind of being replicated as we're building on our own from other developers. So it's a really exciting feature that can mature, that will continue to mature in releases to follow. But it is a preview feature, so if you want to try it out, you would have to enable it in your environment. The next piece, and I'm going to try and swing out of the developer side of things here in a little bit, but the test engine for the Canvas app is also hugely popular, or a popular, important component in the ALM story. Unit testing and validating that our changes in applications are correct is an important piece of kind of a healthy application as we build them out. So now that there is the idea that there's going to be a test engine that will start to mature for the Power Platform to allow us to start building out our own set of automated unit tests will become very important to the overall ALM story and for us to build healthy applications that we can move out the door into production. So it's a really exciting area that I want to get, but not everybody on the call as developers, but as developers, it's a really important piece to bring along as we can no longer need the third-party libraries, hopefully down the road, to be able to build those unit tests. Speaking of building UI, there is the Creator Kit that I did want to highlight a little bit around in context of the Center of Excellence Toolkit. If individuals are familiar with that one, which is the Center of Excellence Toolkit is a set of tools built by the PowerCat team to really help streamline and simplify some of the experiences of administering the Power Platform and creating that centralized Center of Excellence to drive the security of over things in terms of data loss policies, the administration of the platform, and really giving you that 360-degree view of what is happening on the platform. The Creator Kit in itself is fantastic because it helps create these, it's got a set of controls and pre-built templates. So when we think about want to be able to rapidly build an application and we spin up a Canvas app to build something out, we can now start from these great templates in the Creator Kit to build these great looking applications right out of the box versus starting everything straight from scratch. So it's a great addition to that space as well. And speaking of the administration side, so there is a new tool released in the Center of Excellence called the Administrator Planning, and it's a model-driven app that allows you to start tracking and planning all the tasks when it's related to administering a Power Platform. So you can plan out all your team structure, targets and due dates, and it comes with a collection of Power BI reports that gives you visibility in understanding where you're spending your time and also helping you identify some automation and innovation opportunities. So it's a really exciting piece in that space as well. And very quickly, I'll touch on name formulas. So this was a concept that's been in Excel for a very long time, which is now kind of extending into the PowerFX space. And you're able to kind of simplify that application startup time and reuse some of the logic you're building in your formulas and application going forward. So it's really it's a really great addition for those pro developers who are on the call today to be able to start leveraging these features. Moving into Power Automate. So we touched on Power Apps ideas a little earlier, but the idea of Copilot. Copilot exists in Power Automate as well, where again, we're leaning on AI to help build our flows, which is fantastic when we're able to kind of describe what we're looking for, but maybe a little challenge for us to build it. So now we're able to describe what we're looking for in the flow in a natural language. And the AI Copilot will start building your flow within seconds from there. So it's running on that same underlying technology as Power Apps ideas. And right now, in its current version, in the preview version, it's all based around the 365 connectors and Power Platform. But it will continue to mature as the preview continues. But it's a really exciting when we think about kind of building automation in our applications, just a Power Platform in Dynamics 365, that we can now start leaning on AI to start building some of those flows in itself. The other great thing as well with the AI enhancements around flow is that it will also take care of the format date by examples. So in the same idea from what we can see in Power Apps Ideas, where we can kind of paste in that formatted date or a structure. We'll soon be able to do that in Power Automate as well with some of this feature set. So that'll be a great addition for anyone who's worked with expressions in Power Automate. As a great companion to the COE kit, there's also the automation kit now for the Power Platform, which is all about building a center of excellence around Power Automate. So this was also announced this fall. So some of these highlights I'm bringing here are not specific exactly to release 2, but a lot of things that's been released in the fall of the year with Ignite as well. So this was one that came during the fall. But the automation kit is really designed to help organizations kind of manage and govern that automation platform at scale and really drive the adoption of best practices across the industry and bring them into the organization. So similar objectives as the Center of Excellence toolkit, but this kind of works as a companion, specifically looking around the automation expertise in Power Automate and RPA. This is probably by far one of my favorite in release 2. Again, it's the little things that make the biggest difference, but being able to quickly change the owner of a flow is such a big thing to have. You know, as you publish flows from one environment to the other, you want them under the correct owner. Now the capabilities there now to be able to kind of set up to quickly change who is the owner of the flow. So that's exciting to see. The flow activity, this is a preview one that's coming out. It's more focused around the RPA users and dashboards, and it's really built now to enable customers to quickly identify the more common errors that you're seeing in the execution of the flows. And the goal here is really kind of provide that information of the desktop flows and the cloud flows that are being impacted by errors, to allow customers really to quickly understand and correct those particular issues. So again, some exciting things when it comes from the activity point of view and the measurements of things. Power BI, there was only one feature I wanted to really highlight here as it directly impacts, kind of ties back to the Dynamics 365. The being able to bring these Power BI visuals directly to Dynamics 365 and those model-driven and first-party applications is now generally available. It's fantastic to have the capabilities of Power BI directly in Dynamics to engage with it, and to really enhance the experience, the reporting experience within the platform. So that's a really exciting one to come forward from Power BI. On the Dataverse front, specifically drilling down to the Dataverse front, managed environments is now generally available. It's a great enhancement to the environment management of things from an enterprise and governance point of view. So from that simple click of a button to activate it, you know, admins are now going to be able to have some greater visibility and more control on their environments. So today, we were able to kind of get a simple administration digest there of understanding the most used applications of flows and potentially orphan flows. We think about cleaning things up. You were able to kind of enact some stricter sharing limits around applications as well. So those are great things to have that are there today. It will continue to grow, as you can kind of see there, to include a lot of more detailed reports around the licensing, the solution checker, and being able to help enhance that maker onboarding experience. So as you're bringing on both developers and business subject matter experts, we'll see that experience mature there as well. And the pipelines feature there at the bottom, it's one that I'm really looking forward to. As you can tell, I used to be a pro developer in my previous role before joining Microsoft. So the ability to bring pipelines into the administration experience is going to be big, from that ALM of automating your releases going from one environment to another. The AI generated one. So that one is actually tied to the embedded Teams capabilities. and it just sort of leans on AI to wrap up the conversation and bring that history into context of the conversation. This slide is actually out of order. It's not supposed to be there, so I'm sorry about that one. And I'll move on. Then maybe that's my mistake there for the day. Connecting to external data from Dataverse. I brought this one in just before I joined on the call because I felt it was pretty important. Again, from as we think of most of our applications, enterprises, more often than not, they're not just dependent on its own data. You're looking at how do I interact with other data and bring it into a system and merge that together. There is obviously a lot of ways to bring data in. There's virtual tables and actually bringing the data in separate entities, but the capability now that will come out to being able to interact with a table in itself will become a very powerful feature to be able to bring that data in into Dataverse and start interacting with it without all the necessary pro developer expertise needed to build up virtual tables. So through connectors now you'll be able to kind of bring those tables in through a very simple wizard, and we'll be very excited to see how that extends our applications from Dynamics through the Power Platform. And with that, that's a little bit of a whirlwind tour. I hope some of the features, or I trust that some of those features that I covered were relevant to you or the applications you were building. Sure, there was some in there that maybe not was been exciting in the pro developer space for those who are not developers or users. Yeah, I hope it was enjoyable for everybody and open to questions.
It's always exciting to see the new features that are coming out or recently rolled out or things that are in preview. It's always blows my mind where they're going with the applications. Every time I think I've seen that as far as they can go, they tend to push it even further, which just blows me away. We definitely have some time for questions if people have any questions about specific features. I do know that there was one that came in the chat, Todd, about one of the first things you showed, some of those sales accelerator. There was a question from Debbie about, is there a place to go to get training for some of these new features from an admin perspective? I pointed to the Microsoft Learn documentation and some of the courses that are there, but do you know of any live training options that happen?
Not live that I've seen. Learn is always my first stop to go for content. So that's where I would start with. I haven't seen anything live yet come up in terms of training from Microsoft or even in the partner community experience yet.
Yeah. Okay. And if anybody does know the answer to that, it was in the chat. Good reference to the PowerCat team too. I put a link to their YouTube. They have fantastic content. If you're ever looking for stuff, Phil and his team and the team there, they do a great job of producing solid, well-polished content that gives good insight into features and functions.
Yeah, I would say anybody who's interested in the architecture and governance of things on the PowerCat side, their architecture series they did is quite phenomenal.
Yeah,
so it's a strong recommend to watch.
I'm just looking through the chat, see if there's any other questions. If anybody wants to come off mute, by all means, please do pop in. If we don't have any questions, then we'll switch gears and I'll jump into my my content. But we'll give it a minute while you ponder.
Malcolm, it's Debbie. Like, the reason I asked that question is I just find that a lot of the Microsoft Learn stuff is very generic. It doesn't really walk you through how to set up some of these things, like, you know, what are sort of best practices in terms of, you know, you make a phone call and then, you know, 5 days later you're going to follow up on the phone call. Like, it's just you sort of knowing if there's some industry information out there. People have created YouTubes showing how to set this stuff up. Would be really helpful.
Absolutely. I don't know of any off the top of my head, but definitely there's lots of people that produce content, so it could definitely be out there. If anybody knows of it, throw it in the chat. But that's a great call out, Debbie, because it's one thing to see it and what its capabilities are. It's another thing to know how to configure it and set it up. So
Exactly.
All right, I don't see any other questions coming up. I don't see any hands raised. So Todd, thank you very much for the overview. I know we've had to do that a couple times over the last few years, so thank you. It's always good to hear from you and always good to hear what new and exciting features, and my thing is if Todd's excited about it, then I'm usually excited about it too, because we're pretty similar. So thank you so much, Todd, for bringing that to the table.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll have you again. I'm going to shift gears. So we're going to dive into a different session. So we're going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm actually going to touch on a feature that Todd touched on in his presentation around the D365 and Microsoft Teams integration and how it works. And so this session is a little bit different in structure. So bear with me while I get myself organized here. Too many windows. Okay. So the way this session's structured is it's a hybrid, I would say, of art of the possible. So as in probably Debbie, to your chagrin, here's what it can do, but we're also going to touch a little bit on how do you get it to do that. So some of the configuration. And so the way that this session is comprised, I'm not doing live demo because I've been burned by that more than enough. We have pre-recorded selections of videos that range anywhere from, in fact, 22 seconds is the shortest one, but most of them are about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, and they kind of go through various features and functions. So I'm going to talk for a little bit, play a video, talk for a little bit, and bounce back and forth. So I'm going to pull up my screen, and then we'll get started. Just give me can you give me a thumbs up when you see my screen? Should be a Microsoft mission statement quote.
I see it.
You see it. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so we will dive right in. I'm not going to pay attention to the chat a whole lot because I'm going to facilitate. But if questions come in, please feel free to interrupt me as we go, and we can definitely pause and do all that good stuff. I'm going to do, well, when I get there, I might have to make one change while we get into the first video, but we'll deal with that when we get there. So this statement you see on screen, you've probably all heard it before, right? This is Microsoft mission statement, right? To empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more. And that's incredibly lofty, right? That's a significant undertaking, and they're doing a fantastic job, you know, to the point of some of the features we just saw from Todd. The continual innovation is just mind-blowing. You'd think many of us who've been around for a while, if you've been in the space for even a couple of years, you'd be used to the fact that there's new stuff just every day. It seems like there's something fantastic and new coming out. But despite being around for a while, it still is amazing at the pace at which they push this out. And it's because they're working towards this kind of innovation. And one of the things that this really speaks to in the context of what we're presenting today is that collaboration has become a way of life, right? And this is no secret. I think COVID thrust many of us into a world where we had to collaborate in a different way. And collaboration isn't new, right? We've long had to work together. But as our industries become more and more thought intensive, right? Thought leadership style, thinking roles as opposed to doing, short of roles where you come into your manufacturing line and you find your spot on the floor and you're putting a widget in a hole for 8 hours a day, and you just kind of put it in and send it down the line to the next person and do the next thing. Short of that, most of us are working in roles that require collaboration in some way, shape, or form. So when you think of what Microsoft's doing and where they're going with these tools and what that means from a collaboration standpoint, bringing together things like Teams and Microsoft Teams and Dynamics 365 and some of these applications really is about enhancing the ability to collaborate and enhancing your productivity, right? Making sure that people have the tools that they need at their fingerprints or fingertips, both, I suppose, to be able to do the things that they need to do. And so much of that now, especially in a remote world, I think I've only seen one person who's in an office, and even then, I know it's not their office, they're somewhere else off-site. So you're working remotely, whether you're at home, you're on the road, you're somewhere else. Your ability to interact with somebody at work is no longer just going over the back and seeing what they're doing, you're now in a world where you have to depend on the technology to connect with those people. So that lead in is all about why these features and functions are coming out, as far as from our perspective. Right? It's about making sure that we have the tools to enable connection amongst our colleagues. If I'm on the road and I'm heading into a meeting with a customer and I happen to see that Sally, who I work with, just happened to have an interaction with that customer in the last week, I should be able to quickly and easily connect with her and have a conversation or a chat message back and forth before I walk into my meeting, right? And when we think of why do we use a CRM system, I know they don't really call it that anymore, but that's really what it is. It's about understanding our relationship and managing our relationship with those customers. So if I can get insight that's going to help me from a colleague before I walk into a meeting, that's pretty powerful insight to have. So we're going to walk through these 4 different things. And so we've got about 45 minutes of time. There's a handful of videos. As I mentioned, I'm going to talk for a little bit, set the stage, and then we'll show a quick video, and then we'll go back and watch some more, talk some more, watch some more. But when we're all said and done, we're going to cover Teams. We're going to touch lightly on SharePoint, not because I want to show the SharePoint function, not that there's anything wrong with it. I think it's great, but I want to call out what I see as actually a big problem in the way that this has been pushed out. Not so much with the technology and its function, but what it does to an organization. So that's why we're going to talk about SharePoint. We'll talk a little bit about Teams chat and one of the new features, swarming in D365. And then we'll talk about some of the telephony integrations and how we can connect our phone systems and things like that to make calls directly from D365. So that's kind of our path forward. Those are the areas we're going to cover. And so let's dive in. So the first things we want to look at is views and records. Now, for context, some of these videos were shot a few months ago, which isn't a long time, but to the point of rapid innovation, the features and names have actually changed. In fact, the way you set some of these up, although it's in the same place, you go to the admin center and into the integration area, some of the language around that has changed from what you're going to see on screen. But the gist of it is the same. So you're still looking at the same kind of thing. And I'll call out the first one when we get there, really around the differences between what we used to call basic integration and is now linking records or record integration. So you'll see that in a couple minutes. But before we dive into some of those more granular features, we're going to start with a more simplistic example, which is really just how a user can actually integrate and use Teams inside of their D365 environment. And so this is going to be the first video. So bear with me because I'm going to click this and I think it's going to push over to a different browser, which I'll have to drag over. And so bear with me as I go through this process. I don't actually know where this is going to show up, so that we're on an adventure together here. Okay, it is over here, so bear with me. Okay, now one more thing I want to just make sure we have access to is you have to see, for those of you who are on cam, you're going to see yourself for a minute. I don't know about you, I always hate when people do that to me, so bear with me. I think I'm going to, when you're sharing in the desktop, does anybody know how to help me? Usually when you're sharing, you have a little pop thing at the top and you can say share computer audio. I don't think I have that when I'm doing desktop sharing. So I'm going to stop sharing and then I'm going to reshare for a sec. Because I always forget to click that button that says share. Come on. Okay, so I'm going to share again. This time I'm going to include computer audio. Okay, so you should be able to hear the audio coming through the screen. Just like I'm just going to select this off here so that I can see. Emily, I see you're on cam. Can you give me a thumbs up that you can hear the audio when it starts playing, please? So we're going to go ahead and click our little ellipsis here, and we're going to see different apps that might come up, and I'm going to find an app by searching for Dynamics 365. There it is. We can collaborate on D365. Go ahead and click that. It's going to open up our little add window here. I can add this application. It's going to do its thing for a second, and it's going to ask me for some additional information on the settings tab. You can see there's a window right here that asks for that. And what it's looking for here is which application, which environment, and which app do you want to see? Which very logical questions. I'm going to go ahead and pick this one of our demo ones, and I'm going to go ahead and select an app. And in this case, I'm going to pick our Sales Hub because that's my primary role. Go ahead and save those changes. And just like that, we now have access to our D365 application directly inside of Teams. You can see it on the left-hand side. We can actually pin that there so it stays present and visible at all times. Now I'm in the web application. In the desktop application, you can actually move your items around, which is a really handy feature. And so here we see we now have our D365 application, which I can use and peruse as I normally would, right? To come in and do my work. I can open up our list of accounts. I can open up an account. I can go ahead and do the work that I need to do just as I would if I were in the web application. Now, the one caveat that I talked about is screen real estate is obviously different, right? So you're not dealing with your full browser. You've now got some added layers on the left. Now you can minimize part of that, which is handy, but you're still dealing with a slightly different experience, a slightly smaller experience here than you would be if you were using the browser. And that may be a make it or break it feature for a lot of people, right? Some people really like as much real estate, myself included. That said, I will say this does give us quite a bit of information. It doesn't really change that much. And so for the purposes of grabbing an opportunity or making a quick additional note on something, maybe creating an activity to reflect a phone call I just had, scheduling my next phone call, all those things very quick and easy to do. And I can do them right inside of Teams. And again, without having to flip back and forth. So that was a really quick overview just to show you that it is that quick and easy, right? In the span of just a couple of minutes, we were able to implement our integration and pull this record up, and we can now begin using this and making changes to our data in real time right from here. So that video did not include me editing anything out. So when we talked about it being quick and easy, I didn't wait for it to load and cut out 50 seconds or 2 minutes of time. It is that fast. You add the app in, you tell it which app. If you have to sign in, you may have to sign in. But other than that, boom, it's there and quick and easy, which is really cool. Now the next video you're going to see is looking at, and it's a little out of order. So I'm going to talk next about the difference between basic or record integration and enhanced integration. What you're going to see in this video before I get into those details, though, is that the enhanced integration, when it's turned on, you can actually point the record and have it in D365 show it what team to pin it on. So it's going to not really make sense, but it will when we get to the next slide. So this one will load. I don't know why this keeps happening. Clearly, we have some security things going on. So this should open up our tab again. Perfect. Good call, Debbie. Yes, you can collaborate. We're going to talk about that too with non-D365 users, which is great.
Fabricam is one of the large accounts that Ali works with, and she wants to associate it with Contoso's large account Microsoft team so she can share information and documents. From Dynamics, Ali opens the Fabricam Robotics account. She clicks on the Collaborate button and clicks on the Get Started button. She could create a new Microsoft team from here, but one already exists for large accounts, so Ali's going to use that one. But there's no channel on this team for Fabricam, so Ali would create a new channel, and she's going to name it Fabricam. Dynamics automatically suggests some other Contoso employees to add to the Microsoft team based on the ownership of records in Dynamics 365. Ali clicks the Finish button to wrap the process up. After a few minutes, Ali is taken to Microsoft Teams, where a new channel has been added, along with a tab linking directly to the Fabricam Robotics record in Dynamics.
So the only thing I would change about that is the word the term few minutes because it's actually seconds. It's pretty quick and responsive. And again, that's that enhanced integration. When your enhanced integration is on, you have the ability to point into Teams and do it from there. Basic integration, when you click that collaborate button, and you'll see this coming up in the videos, when you click that button, it actually just opens Teams up, and then you can go to wherever that data is reflected in Teams. So a little bit confusing, I realize, but we'll go to the next slide here and it'll make a little more sense. Okay, so here we've got the ability, now we've got, if we think back to the first video, we've got Teams integrated, and we want to be able to look at and work with records on a tab, kind of like what they did there. Well, what Jeff, that's the voice you were hearing, either myself or Jeff Abel's at our company. We want to take that data and we want to interact with it in Teams, not as a full application like we're using Teams. We actually want to pin it inside of a channel so that we can use it, much like what he did in the second video. So this video here is going to show you how that looks, how to do it, and then how it interacts with. One question we often get when we present this is people say, okay, well, this is great, but how long does it take for the data to get to Dynamics? So if I make a change in the application when I'm looking at it in Teams, how fast is it to get to the actual application? Will other users see it? It's a great question, but you're actually integrated directly with Dynamics. There is no middleware, so there's not a middle ground that this is flowing through. What's going to happen is that change is immediately reflected, literally writing it in Dynamics as you make the change. So you see the videos.
Ali is part of the large accounts team at Contoso. To facilitate collaboration among this group, Contoso has set up a Microsoft team for large account management. While on this team, Ali can navigate to the general channel and click on the large accounts tab. From here, she can see a view of all the large accounts and interact with it just as if she were using Dynamics 365. Ali can also navigate to one of the accounts that she works with, for example, Fabricam Robotics, as a channel. From here, she can see files associated with this account. These files are also visible in the Dynamics record. She can also navigate to the Fabricam account record itself without having to leave the Teams application. Switching to Dynamics, on the Fabricam record, Ali can click the Files tab, again, to see the same files of Teams. Files can be added, updated, or changed in either Teams or Dynamics. If Ali wanted to navigate back to the Teams record or set up another team to collaborate with about this Fabricam record, Ali could click the Collaborate button. Whether Ali or her coworkers are working in Dynamics or Teams, they can get to all the information that they need to engage with their customers. Less context switching means Ali can collaborate with others and get her work done more efficiently than ever before.
Okay, so a couple quick things I want to call out. That context switching piece is huge, right? So somebody asked me when I presented this at the UG Summit last year, or earlier this year, feels like last year. It was, well, why would I want to use it in Dynamics or in Teams when it's smaller real estate? Why wouldn't I just use it in the browser and have Teams open? Totally fair, right? Totally fair question. Personal preference, frankly. But one of the things that I think is really handy is if I'm in Teams and I'm having a chat and I'm not signed into Dynamics, I don't have a browser open, it's not there, and I need to grab something or I need to reference something or look at a conversation that recently happened with a customer, if it's integrated with Teams, I've got it right there. I don't have to leave Teams. I don't have to context switch, right, to Jeff's point. I don't have to jump out to a different application, sign in, wait for it to load. I've got that data right there. Now, again, personal preference. Some people would say, nah, that's not a big enough selling feature to do this. Other people might say, yeah, that absolutely is a good reason to do it. I want to point out Debbie's comment. So you can interact with and collaborate with people who don't have access. And so 100% right? You're interacting and collaborating with people who maybe don't have D365. They, at least to my knowledge, and when we shot these initially, if they don't have a license in Dynamics, they cannot interact or see the data. Now they can see snapshots of data, which you'll see when we get to the chat integration features in a few minutes, but they can't interact with data because they don't actually have rights in D365. And so that's a big caveat to understand, because some people will look at this and say, great, I'm just going to get everybody a Teams license and then I'll pull Dynamics in with one admin and now everybody's got rights. Doesn't quite work like that. You still need access. Now, again, that may have changed, but I'm pretty confident that it has not yet. But you absolutely can, to Debbie's point, collaborate. So you can spin up chat, pull people into that chat and say, hey, I'm going to meet with Fabricam tomorrow. And fill me in. Like, what do I need to know, right? Who am I going to meet? Apparently I'm meeting with Tom, and I've never met Tom before. Who can fill me in and give me some insight about Tom so that I can meet Tom and it's going to feel like I've known Tom for my whole life. That kind of interaction. Okay, so let's switch into the next one. So here's when we get into the differences between basic and enhanced. And so this is, you'll see the differences as we navigate through these videos, but the basic integration, if you're looking up documentation, is now that linking records or record integration with Teams and D365. It used to be called, so if you look at historical blogs written maybe even from earlier this year, you may see reference to the basic integration. That's what this is referring to, just so you understand if you're finding any content out there about this.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on the basic integration. So if I come into our environment, into the admin.powerplatform area, and I come into the integration section, I'm going to see the Teams integration settings. And if I click that, it's going to open us up into a new window where I now have the ability to turn on both the and the enhanced. So again, for today, we're just going to focus on the basics. So I'm going to go ahead and flip that to yes. And you can see now that I've turned it to yes, I would have the ability for the enhanced. If I leave it as no, you can't turn on the enhanced if the basic isn't on in the first place. So that really makes sense. But for today's purposes, we're going to leave this with the basic integration. So I'll go ahead and save that. And that is now going to turn the feature on. Now it's going to take a moment to do that. And it's going to refresh its page when it's done. And so now we can jump into D365 and actually perform a quick reset. And you're going to notice right up here, we're going to see the Teams Collaborate button show up. So this now gives us the ability to navigate from Dynamics 365 into Teams to where the integration has already been set up and the record or the view that you're dealing with has already been mapped. If it hasn't been mapped, it's going to push us into Teams and we can set that mapping up there. We do not have the ability to do that from within D365 when using the basic integration.
So to save time, we've cut that portion out of the video to where we actually click the button and show you what we mean. But basically what would happen is we click that collaborate button, Teams opens up, and if that view, so in that case, open opportunities, if that view were already aligned somewhere in a team, it was on a channel, it was posted as a tab, it would take us directly there. If there was multiple locations, it would let us choose. And if it wasn't already mapped, it would prompt us to go through the process of doing that. That's the basic integration. So the main difference between those is if you click that button when the basic or linking records record level integration is enabled, it's going to open you in Teams and you do all your work from in Teams to map it to the right place. The enhanced integration differs because, as you've seen and you saw it in the video, Jeff's going to do another one real quick here. What it'll actually prompt you to do is make the selections about where you want to put it right from inside D365. So you don't even have to touch Teams. It's just going to say, yep, go ahead. Where do you want to put it? Pick a team, pick a channel, create a channel if you don't have one, and away you go. You'll even notice the private channel option is enabled, or available rather. So you can actually pick that and create a private channel and invite specific people to that from there.
We're going to start in the admin platform site, and we are going to come into our Teams integration feature. And here we're going to see which settings we already have turned on, and you can see our basic was turned on in our previous video. We're going to go ahead and turn on the enhanced Teams integration, and you'll see we have a secondary option to turn on confidential labels, which allows us to create private teams and add sensitivity or confidentiality labels in the enhanced Teams integration. We're going to leave that as no for now. That's worth looking into if you want to be able to create a team that's specifically just a couple of people, private team for private interaction about a record. That would allow you to do that. Today's example, we're not going to go ahead with that. So I've gone ahead and flipped that on to yes. I'm going to go ahead and click save down on the bottom. And now that that change has been saved, we can go ahead and navigate into D365. I'm going to do a quick refresh of the application. And now that our record has come back, we can go ahead and click collaborate, and we're going to notice a slightly different experience than we did with our basic interaction. So this is what Jeff showed in the other video, right? Click get started, and away you went down the path to point it in Teams. Why, few people ask, why is the button over there and over here when you turn on the, I have no idea, because they just were having fun and said, let's put it over here and make people guess. Not sure why they put it there. But that's the only real difference, is the location of that button. And of course, if your screen is a bit smaller, it's going to hide it under the ellipse. You'll have to get it there. Debbie made a great call out, right? In order to enable the enhanced integration, you do need global admin rights. So good call out there in the chat, Debbie. Okay, so that's a bit about the Teams integration on that piece. Now, one of the things Jeff talked about in one of those videos was the files area, and he showed it very briefly. He integrated with Teams, it was linked to a record, and now he had the ability to see the records that were in Teams files inside of the D365 record. So I'm going to take you on a very quick journey into the SharePoint world. Some of you may or may not use this or know that it's available. SharePoint has long had an integration option with D365, right, from version quite some time ago. And so it's been around for a while. This Teams interaction now, or integration rather, is now coming in addition to that. And so I'm going to show you a couple things, and then I want to talk through one of the reasons I don't actually think it's great that it does what it does. I understand why, but it doesn't. This I forgot to take out. This was from when I was doing this live and I could actually see people's hands. I would ask you to do it here, but in the interest of time, we'll just jump forward. So this is just going to give us an overview for those of you who don't know about the D365 integration and how it works today. So again, D365, SharePoint, they talk to each other, have for quite some time. You can set up a specific site in SharePoint and point Dynamics to that site, and then your records are all going to show up there. And so that's a real simplistic version of how it works, but I'm going to show you a quick video that shows what it looks like when it's set up and what it does, and then we're going to talk about how Teams does it. And I will play that video as soon as it loads.
Allie Jamison is working with a large customer, Fabricam Robotics. She's following Contoso's annual large account processes for annual product pricing and loyalty program agreements. This requires working with a number of documents. Until recently, Allie would work with the built-in attachments capability in Dynamics 365. Using this, she would draft documents as she normally would, and when she was ready to attach them to the customer record, she would click the paperclip icon, browse to the attachment, and upload it. Contoso recently activated the SharePoint integration with Dynamics 365. Now Allie has a Files tab on each of her records. From here, Allie can see all the records associated with the Fabricam Robotics account. She can also easily navigate to related records with attachments, such as all of the opportunities and documents associated with each one of those. Allie can create new documents or upload documents from her computer. And she can work with her existing documents, editing and saving them right in place. Allie can also navigate to the list of documents in SharePoint for the full SharePoint experience and functionality. They can also use search to find documents. Links to messages can be copied and sent via email or Teams. And Allie can even use the SharePoint sync setting to store a local copy of these files on her computer for easier access.
Okay, so pretty cool functionality. Again, been around for a while. You can do that. I think it's great, right? Especially if you're in the habit of attaching documentation in the form of an actual attachment in D365. If you're in the online space, you surely know your storage rates go up real quick when you start doing stuff, especially if you are working with users who scan documents in. Those tend to come in quite heavily. They tend to be quite large, and then you're putting them into Dynamics. It's going to drive your storage up. Now, Microsoft's made some great enhancements to the way storage is dealt with, but you're still dealing with limited capacity, right? You only have so much space, and you want to be mindful of how you use that space up. And it's not that cheap to buy more. You can buy more, but it comes at a cost. And so one reason people would go the SharePoint route is it drives that cost for storage down, but it looks and smells and feels just like you're working in Dynamics. So that's a huge plus. And now we have the ability to do very much the same thing, but with Teams. Jeff showed it in an earlier video, and I know he kind of went over it quickly, but it's basically the same thing. So I'm not going to show another video. I took that one off. It's essentially the same thing. And what you see on the screenshot here is you've got this ability to see data that's in Teams and SharePoint. But to me, herein lies the problem. We now hear all the time, our data is everywhere. We have data in silos. I don't know where to find anything. It's in multiple locations. And so if you have SharePoint integration turned on and you now layer in the Teams integration, well, it's really great that inside of Dynamics, you can see the data from everywhere. Those buckets of data are still technically separate, right? You now have data in a SharePoint site over here that you've identified previously, and now you've got it in a Teams environment, and those two environments aren't necessarily the same. So that just perpetuates this idea of having data in silos in different locations, and ultimately makes it continually harder for users to find data. A little bit better because it's inside of Dynamics. You have the ability to see it all in both places, which is super slick, and I love that feature. But I do think organizations need to think long and hard about whether you want to turn both on at the same time, because you are ultimately saying to users, go ahead and put it in either of these two places, which is fine when they know about that. But a new user comes on and doesn't think to look in Dynamics and doesn't know. They see stuff in Teams, they think that's it. They see stuff in SharePoint, they think that's it. To me, that's a problem. That's a personal Malcolm perspective and thought on the matter. But I think, and I often see nodding heads when I talk about that in a room of people. So I think other people probably share the concern. It's not to say you shouldn't do it. It's just from a governance perspective, have a plan, like everything else. Have a plan around how you're going to manage that. So let's switch gears a little bit into the Teams chat functionality. So this is a really cool feature. Also in line with Debbie's comments, the ability to interact with people who don't have a D365 license, but still get their insights about a record in D365 through a chat application. So this video is going to show you how that's available, what it looks like, and then what it looks like when you're the user who sent the chat and the user who received the chat and vice versa. So enjoy. It'll load in just a sec.
Allie is a loyalty points program for Fabricam, one of Contoso's customers. Fabricam has asked some questions about how the loyalty points program works. Allie needs to engage others within Contoso in a discussion about these issues. From the Fabricam record in Dynamics 365, Allie clicks on the Teams Chats button. From here, she can see a list of her recent chats, but she needs to directly to the Fabricam record. So she clicks the new linked chat button. She wants to invite participants who can either explain the loyalty program or who can make decisions on changing the program itself. So she invites William Contoso, Contoso's Chief Operating Officer, and Karen Berg, the Loyalty Program Director. Allie will add a descriptive note about the questions Fabricam has and start the chat. She can see the chat directly within Dynamics 365 in this new window. Let's switch to Karen Berg's view of this chat. Karen sees it in Teams just like a normal chat message. She sees a brief description of the record in card format, as well as Allie's opening message, and she can reply just like any other Teams message. Karen doesn't have a Dynamics license, so she can't view the record at this time. Switching back to Allie's view, Allie sees Karen's reply come in while on the Dynamics 365 record. Those chats are also available directly within the chat area of Microsoft Teams. So had Allie navigated away from the Dynamics record, she would have gotten the standard alert in Teams that a new chat was available. And because she's a licensed Dynamics user, she could click the link to easily navigate back to the Dynamics record. Allie can also click the Channels tab in the Teams pane to see any Teams channels that might be associated with this record. So she can click these channels to open up Microsoft Teams directly to view more information.
So super handy, and I think one of the most influential or impactful functions is the ability to interact with people who don't have a Teams or a D365 license, right? You can get their perspectives and insight on something through a chat as if it's a normal D365 chat, or sorry, Teams chat. I'm getting my applications mixed up. The other really cool part about that is I'm working in the record, I send the message, I turn my attention to something else, right? We task switch like we do all day long. I'm doing something totally unrelated and that person responds. A question we usually get is like, do I have to go back and check the D365 record? You don't. It's sent from your profile as a Teams message. If that person responds and I've task switched away or even closed Dynamics, it's going to pop up in my Teams just like every other message does because it's a Teams chat. It just happens to integrate directly in and alongside the D365 record. Super handy. There's a brief video here on how to set that up. Actually, I was going to not play it, but we have time. So this is going to give you a quick insight. It's just 2 minutes. It shows you how to actually configure that. It's the same area. The one thing I want to call out here, the integration that we talked about earlier and the chat integration are independent. So you can turn them on. You don't have to turn the integration stuff we've already talked about earlier today. You can just turn on this chat functionality itself and run with that and not worry about the integrated record stuff if you wish.
So the first thing we got to do is turn it on. And in here, we are in our admin center. I've come into our development environment that we're using for this. And on the right-hand side, we see integration. And if I click on that, you see a number of features, one of which is this Teams integration settings. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. It's going to open up in a new window. And there's actually 2 different sections here that we're going to deal with. We're going to work with the bottom one. So the first thing we want to do is turn on the Microsoft Teams chat inside of Dynamics 365. And again, stressing the fact that this is a preview, so it can change over time. But at the time of filming this little overview, this is the experience as it is today. And I don't think it's going to change a whole lot because it's pretty robust and functional. If anything, we may see some added features and buttons moving around, but they could be making any kind of change they want. So just know that as you dive into this. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. It's going to ask for some confirmation. I'm going to go ahead and give it the confirmation it needs. It's basically just me signing in. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to toggle this bottom setting here that says use record title as the default chat name. Whether you turn this on or not is really up to you as an organization. What this is going to do is take the title of the record from Dynamics and put it as the title or the subject, if you will, of the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on because that's going to save me from having to enter a title. And I'm going to go ahead and save. All right, it is now completed saving, and once the feature has been enabled, we now have the ability to link different chats to D365 records, and here we're essentially identifying which record types we can do. I'm not going to change any of this because our example today is going to focus around the account, but you can see a fairly extensive list type, including the ability to add record types here. So I've got function on the bottom. This feature is now enabled, so if we jump into our environment, I'm going to go ahead and do a hard refresh on this page. And what you'll notice in the upper right ribbon as the page refreshes is we're going to have the inclusion of a new button. And that's our new chat feature. So we now have turn this feature on. You can see it's giving us a little indicator that it's been added and it's ready to roll.
So full transparency on that, I absolutely, as you could surely tell, cut sections out of that because things were taking so long. I think that's related to the environment I was working in specifically. But if you turn it on and you click save, it may spin for a little bit. Just be patient. It'll do its thing. The other question we often get there, we showed record types and the ability to add other record types. We often hear, people ask, can we turn this on custom tables? Yes, it can be enabled for custom tables. Okay, so let's get into swarming, which is a new feature. So this now at the time of filming this, it was the video and putting this slide together, it was preview. I believe it's out. I don't know if Todd's still on the call. He might be able to speak to it or somebody else can, but I believe it's now out. It's now in GA, but maybe not. It's still relatively new, but either way, you'll see the functionality and the intent of the swarming feature. And I'm sorry that I didn't put the first handful of videos in full screen. Never even occurred to me. I'm looking at it on a larger monitor. And then I realized that it's probably pretty small because you're seeing my screen through my screen. So I'm sorry that I didn't put the first few in full screen. hold on. Let's give it a minute to load. I don't know why that sounded so choppy.
Allie is working a complex customer service case that she's going to need some help getting resolved. So she creates a swarm to invite experts from across Contoso to join her on Teams in resolving this issue. She'll give it a descriptive title, as well as the steps she has already tried and any other descriptive information that might help her colleagues find a resolution. As she enters those two fields, Dynamics 365 creates a list of the skills that might be helpful in resolving the issue. Allie can easily add her own skills to this list as well. Allie then saves this form and it automatically invites others to participate. Dynamics 365 uses an algorithm to try to involve the fewest number of people with the greatest number of needed skills to resolve the issue. Swarm can also be set up to auto-notify the manager of the case owner, the owner of the parent account, or the administrator of the Dynamics team, or all three. In this case, Contoso configured it to notify the manager of the case only. Other users see a normal chat in Teams, along with a tab of the swarm details that brings up the Dynamics 365 record for more information. This record is available in Microsoft Teams, even if the Teams user does not have a Dynamics 365 license. By getting others involved, Allie solves customer issues more quickly while getting the minimum number of participants involved as efficiently as possible and captures expert knowledge that can be reused on future cases. When Allie is done with the swarm, she can note the solution that was agreed upon by the team and closes the swarm. For more information.
So I just want to call out the piece about so when we presented the last time, somebody came back and said, well, hold on, that's weird. How come they need a license in the other version, but here in swarming, anybody on that swarm doesn't need a license to see this? You'll notice all the data on here is locked down, right? This is a locked version. You're basically looking at a snapshot of the D365 record. There's zero interaction on the actual record itself happening here. And so that's a key determining factor as to why they don't need a license. If you're editing the data, you need to have a license to be able to do that. To look at this data, this is no different than sending an email and dynamically pulling in a bunch of data and sending it off to somebody. It's just a snapshot, so that's why. I want to slide, so I'm just watching the time. I know that we've had your attention for a fair amount of time today. If people have to drop, I understand, but there's a couple of neat features, one in particular that I really want to show you guys, primarily because the way Jeff shot the video, Jeff and I together, but he did all the work, is quite comical. So the first thing, this telephony item is, this is a 22-second video that will not actually open the way all the rest of them do because of the way we linked it. It's a mistake and I meant to fix it and I didn't, but it's only 22 seconds, so I can charades it out for you. I open up my Dynamics record, I click the phone call item on a phone number, and what's going to happen is, assuming I have Teams phone capabilities, so I've got, that's an extra license, right? You need extra capabilities to have that in place. Assuming I have that, it'll actually use Teams to conduct the phone call, and it'll create a phone call record in D365 where I can document my findings. So it took me longer to explain than it would have to watch the video, but that's all that happens. It's pretty neat, but it's pretty basic. The next thing gets into a whole other realm of functionality. Now, full transparency, this gets into the premium features, right? So either the D365 premium licensing or the Sales Insights premium stuff. I truthfully don't even know what they're calling it nowadays, probably something totally different, but this does come at an additional function. But what you are about to see, if it doesn't blow your mind, I mean, I don't know what else to say. This to me was mind-blowing. Now it's a bit comical because you'll hear Jeff's used a voice. It's not Jeff's voice, it's a different voice to facilitate a phone call. And it was a lot of fun participating in this with him because, well, you'll hear why in just a second.
Allie Jameson is working on her daily list of work items in Dynamics 365 Sales. She sees a call to check on a quote with her contact, Malcolm McAuley at C5 Insight. So she clicks to call.
C5 Insight, this is Malcolm McAuley.
Hi, Malcolm. I'm calling to follow up on the quote we sent over.
Hi, Ali. Great to hear from you.
Do you mind if I record this phone call to be sure I can capture all the important information?
Oh, sure. That's not awkward at all.
This call is being recorded.
We sent over that quote for configuring Teams and Dynamics integration. I was wondering when you expect to have that approved.
As a matter of fact, my boss just put the signed copy on my desk. You beat out company ABC for sure. I was going to send it over this afternoon.
Great. We're looking forward to getting started on that project. Is there anything else I can do for you today?
Yes. Could you go ahead and set up a kickoff call for the project next week? Oh, and also send me a quote for the SharePoint governance services we discussed last week.
Sure thing, Malcolm. I'll be happy to do that.
Excellent. Thanks, Ali. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye, Malcolm.
During the call, Ali can also record some notes. And after the call, she can look at a full summary of all the call details. On the overview page, she can see the flow of call sentiment, whether it's positive or if there's any negativity, that will be highlighted as well. She can scroll through the call to automatically scroll going along with the call. She could hit play to play any portion of the call again. On the Notes tab, Ali not only has the notes that she captured, but artificial intelligence caught some other highlight notes that she may want to record. I will add this note to her overall notes and save them. Ali can also go to the Action Items tab, where the artificial intelligence will suggest follow-up actions based on the call transcript. Ali can click these to expand them, assign them, set a date for them, and create them in her follow-up to-do list. Lastly, Ali can go to the Mentions tab, where she can see that certain words that Contoso has picked out were mentioned, such as a competitor, company ABC, an important brand to Contoso, SharePoint, as well as other keywords that Contoso chooses to track. It also points out where people names were mentioned in different times and dates, questions that were asked by the customer, and more. As Ali looks at these items and hovers over them, the conversation is highlighted in the location that the topic occurred. Teams calls for Dynamics 365 means faster, more productive calls for all of Contoso's customer-facing employees and better service levels for their customers.
That's just bananas. That's all there is to it. Like, that's crazy stuff. So super functional. I'm glad people enjoyed it. I saw the chat. It was a lot of fun to shoot that. But the functionality that's being brought in is just wild, right? I struggle myself trying to keep track of like things I need to do when I'm on a call, and I often get so invested in the call that I forget to take the notes or type the notes or whatever it is. And then after the call, I'm like, what did I have to do? I knew there was to-dos. The fact that it can capture that information and pull it to the forefront and be like, okay, this was said, this was said, this was said. That's just amazing. So really cool functionality. Again, big asterisk. That's premium functionality, right? You need extra licensing for that. But I can see significant ROI on that kind of functionality if people are using it. Being mindful of time, I have one more video I want to share. This is around Teams calls and nope, that's not the one. This one. So D365 Teams meeting. So I want to show this, and then we will come to a wrap. And Debbie, your comment earlier, you asked a question about, does the Teams chat show up on the record? So it does, but there's a little icon in the top right corner. It's two like little chat icon, like speech bubble callouts. You click that and it'll show up in a pane right beside the record. So it's not on the record itself, but it's attached to that record. So if you open that on record A, you're going to see chats about record A. If you open it on record B, you'll see chats for record
After a meeting with Malcolm McAuley at C5 Insight, Ali has determined she wants to also get introduced to Jeff Abels. While on Jeff's record in Dynamics 365 sales, she adds an appointment to her timeline. She's going to fill this meeting out as she normally would, setting the attendees, subject, time, and so forth. But because this will be a Teams meeting, Ali's also going to toggle the Teams meeting option to yes. And she'll click Save and Close. Because Contoso has the Outlook integration on, The meeting will almost immediately be added to our Outlook and Teams calendars, and the meeting invitation will automatically be sent to Jeff Abels at C5 Insight. At the time of the meeting, Allie can join from whichever application she's currently using, Teams, Outlook, or Dynamics. Because Allie uses Dynamics as her dashboard to manage all customer engagement, this is the easiest place for her to join the meeting. So she clicks the Teams icon on the meeting on Jeff's record. Allie is automatically taken into Teams for the meeting, which launches as any standard Teams meeting would. Once in the meeting, Allie can click on the Dynamics 365 app button to see a profile of all meeting attendees, including their contact info, other contacts, notes, open tasks, and other recent activities. And during the meeting, Allie can also capture notes that will be saved directly to Microsoft 365. Integrated Microsoft Teams meetings means Allie spends less time switching app information and more time engaging with customers.
So another super cool feature with a lot of great functionality to it. Not much else to say. Again, preview features, just a caveat, preview features. Now this was produced a little while ago before Summit, which was in October. Some of these may be GA now, but preview features may change at any time, right? So they can be pulled, they can have key features changed about them, enhanced, generally enhanced, but sometimes even withdrawn. So just understand that that's the caveat when you're dealing with a preview feature. But neat to see where they're going with the application and some of the functionality. And a lot of what you just saw, I can't imagine they're going to take anything like that out, because that's just plain valuable at the end of the day. I'm not going to play anything about this one. In fact, this is a bit of a teaser. Our January meeting that's already scheduled for January 12th. Is that the right date? Yes, I see you nodding. January 12th is going to hone in on Viva Sales. So I hope you can earmark that date, set it aside from 1 to 3, I think is the time. We're going to have all those meetings for the next few months scheduled actually tomorrow. And then we'll start to send out placeholders. I'll have registration links spun up in Meetup so that you can all go and register, because I'm hoping that you want to join these calls on a regular basis. But all that said, January will focus on Viva Sales, what it is, how it works. We've got an MVP coming to help us with that. We've got folks from Microsoft coming to help with that as well. So looking forward to that. All of that said, we have 2.5 minutes remaining in our time together. So I will stop talking, and I would love to open the floor to hear any other topics that you might want to hear about, or perhaps share yourself, because we're always hunters. Is there anything that people are like, oh, it'd be really cool to hear about this or this or this, or share? Please come off mute. Let us know.
Just one thing, Malcolm, if
Sure.
anybody's having a hard time finding out where to go to join our Meetup group, do we have the link for that available?
We can.
Because we still have quite a few people that haven't joined the group that are on the meeting because they just came in through LinkedIn. So it's kind of important, because if you miss my updates or Malcolm's or Diane's updates on LinkedIn, then you won't see the meeting coming. Casey, do you got a question?
Yeah, but send me the link. I stumbled into this thing. I don't know how I did it. I think you brought me in, Rick, so thank you.
Yeah, I sent you an invite.
Well, we're
Denise has added the link to the chat, I see.
In the chat. Good, thank you. So please, by all means, join up. Right now, we've got Malcolm, Diane, and myself as the executive, and then we have another leadership committee. So if you want to join that leadership committee, please just send one of us a note, and we will give you a really rough interview, and then you're in. Okay.
We'll make you talk to the person who did that sales call with me.
We'll make you find the next speaker.
Yeah.
If you come up with somebody good, you're in.
Yeah. Sounds good. Well, so I realize people probably have to jump. If you do, that's great. I'm going to hang around for a few minutes for sure. If anybody wants to share any thoughts or comments on topics you'd like to see or share, by all means, hang around. But thank you so much for joining today. Hope you found it all valuable, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.